All right, hello from Indy. So I just wanted to give my thoughts on a few things on camshafts. There's so many videos about camshafts and guys giving their 2 cents and guys debunking each other, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not the camshaft guy by any means, but and there's, I like watching Rick Seaman. I don't know if any of you guys watch his videos. And he's been building a 383 and having some cam problems. And I've just been kind of thinking about it. But really got my wheels turning was my dad and I had lunch the other day. And, I was a fourth generation employee for Detroit Diesel. And my great-grandfather, dad, me, many of my uncles all worked for Detroit or Allison's, GM. We got to talking about Uncle Shorty. Uncle Shorty was a case layout specialist for GM. So let's say you're making camshafts for General Motors at the GM Maywood plant. Just as an example, nothing is reality here. But you're having problems. You're getting a lot of returns. Things aren't going well. General Motors would send a group of people to figure out what's going on, and one of them would be Uncle Shorty. And his specialty was he had an unbelievable ability to measure something and do it right and figure out how to do it properly. So he would be the guy that'd show up, and not only could he measure, he was good at looking at engineering drawings. So he had the ability to put those two things together, and that's probably why he was so good at it. So he was one of many that would show up, and he would tell you, show me how you measure this. I got to make sure the way you're measuring it is proper. Why that's important is, a couple years ago, I was watching if I want to buy a part from you and you're a manufacturer, I'll get on YouTube and I'll look at your manufacturing process. And a lot of times that'll help me determine whether I should or not. And so I was looking at a place that makes connecting rods on YouTube. I was very impressed with their operation. First class, they know what they're doing. I was looking at a company that does camshafts on YouTube. Determined I would never buy a camshaft from them. They're clowns. They don't know what they're doing. They just don't know what they're doing. This company has a lot of problems right now. And I watched the video and knew exactly why. They need to get a case layout specialist to come in and help them figure out what they're making. So, I want to give you an illustration. This is a camshaft in the front, and I've got two Chrysler camshafts. Now, they're in horrible condition, but you'll see what I'm talking about, why measuring things is so important. And you've got to have good parts going in for good parts to come out, okay? I could go on and on and on. I actually made this video before, and it took me 40 minutes. That's too long. I'm just going to spit it out. And I found a way to illustrate what I'm trying to tell you. Now, I may not be right. I may be wrong. You guys tell me. But let's compare two camshafts. These are both for 440s. As I said, one of them is a Chrysler part. One of them is an aftermarket part that came out of a failed engine. Let's look at this and see if we can figure out a problem with the camshaft instead of everybody looking at lifters. Okay, now we know this is really important that this gear, let me find my finger, this really, when this is with this drive, really centers that camshaft in the proper location under the lifter bores in the engine. And we want all these things to line up, right? We need our, I'm not good at looking through this and pointing. We need this fuel pump push rod, or lobe for the fuel pump push rod to line up. And that looks okay. I see some differences here. I don't know if you can see that. I bet you can. I'm being silly. And, I would think these lobes should be in line. Well, that one looks really good, right? I mean, I would say those two are on the same line. That looks really good. I don't know. Looking pretty good. And we just kind of go down the road here. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. I don't know if you can see on this. Let's look at this one again. That looks really nice. Look at this lobe compared to this lobe. And this camera is not even showing this to be as bad as it is in person. And it's not an angle issue of me distorting the view. This lobe, where's my finger? And this lobe are 1/8 of an inch off from each other. That is the straight edge. You can see that difference. If I get this lined up, okay, now they have a taper to them, so I'm not trying to shenanigan you here. Do you see that? That difference? Okay, and I'm not so far off that I'm pulling one off of you. I'm going to point something out to you. That way some of you may say, oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, if you look at the base circle here, you'll notice it's wider, and the lobe tapers as we come up. It is definitely not nearly as drastic on a factory, but it does. So I'm not running off the base circle. If I rotate these so you can see that I'm not pulling one over on you, look at that difference. And again, if you could be here in person, it looks much worse. Let's keep going. That looks okay. This one's okay. This one's off a lot. Look at that. This one's off. That one's. Now look, we're offset now. Now we've got a problem. Look at this one. Can you see that difference? Now this one's, look at that. Now look, I want you to see this surface so you know I'm not, now they're away from each other, right? The bearings are different sizes. And then look what happens when we get to the back. Okay. Now, you tell me. I'm just going to give food for thought. You guys tell me what you think. You tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong. But one thing that's really important on this is this lobe, as you look at the wear points on them, look where that lifter was riding, and that lifter. And this one may not be the one that's out of line. It may be the other ones. Well, we know it's not. You can tell where the lifters were riding. Okay, some of them, they're not even hardly on a lobe at all. Look at this one here. This one was riding dead center. And, want to see something fun? Look how worn off that lobe is. Okay, so this is obviously a cam that failed, right? So the important thing is, what I'm getting at is, where this lobe contacts that lifter will determine, does the lifter turn counterclockwise? Does it turn clockwise? Does it turn at all? If it's centered, it might not even spin at all. And that all comes into play. Now let me get this line back up. I've scooted it a little bit. I just want you guys to see this. I'm not going to name the manufacturer. I'm just not going to get into that. But as soon as I said it, every one of you would have heard of them. I'd be surprised if someone didn't. It's just shocking to me the deviation of that, of those lobe positions. So this goes back to what I was talking about with Uncle Shorty. Are these guys even checking this stuff? Are they measuring it? How are they measuring it? How are they comparing these things? You know, we're not talking a thousandths off. I don't know. I don't know. As we look at these differences, and I would be curious now. Maybe Rick will watch my video, or somebody share it with him. Rick, get that comp cam and compare it to a new, or doesn't have to be a mint condition, but a Chrysler camshaft. Do this and see. And I just thought of this today. Wish you could be here in person and see this. Anyhow, okay, guys, I'm just kind of rambling and thinking and looking. So my 2 cents is, and I mentioned I watched that manufacturer's video online and determined I wouldn't buy a camshaft. They were not measuring things right. They didn't know what they were doing. Man, I wish okay. So Detroit Diesel, when they would measure a camshaft, I didn't want to get into this, but I will. Not every camshaft they made, but the specific one I'm referring to, they would put it in a fixture that measured it, and then the operator would turn it, okay? And at that time, that instrument was measuring, where's this at? And where's this lobe in relation to that? And this lobe in relation. It was measuring the relationship of every part. Then it was measuring the lift, the duration. It's measuring all these different points of data at one time. And the tolerance was 4 millionths of 1 inch. Yes, I know what I just told you. If you don't believe me, I can prove it to you. 4 millionths of 1 inch was the tolerance for that cam to pass spec. And we're hearing people getting cams that are 9 thousandths out of round. Guys, that's not acceptable at all. Anyway, I'm not even going to go down that road. Just don't want to. So just some food for thought. I mean, if this is the blank they're starting out with, who knows? Who knows if we really sat down and did some measurements on this. So yeah, if you have a cam, get some of them out. Let's see if we can come up with something and see where their blanks are. And if someone has a comp cam and they can compare it like this with a Chrysler cam, I'd be interested to see how that compares to what this. Now, this cam is not a comp cam. I will tell you that much. But there's just all kinds of things I'm seeing. Wow. Okay, getting long-winded. Later.